Shalom and Chag Sameach, as we're in the midst still of the Festival of Unleavened Bread. And it's early in the week still as I'm recording. I'm a little late this week because of some things that happened, but it's Wednesday. I have not seen a single post on Facebook with someone lusting after a Krispy Kreme donut or something. So as I said, it's early in the week. And those are the ones that really bother me when it's about the fifth or sixth day of unleavened bread, and people start posting how they're lusting for something with leaven in it. Just go ahead, go to Krispy Kreme, whatever, and eat it. I mean, would this not be in the book of Matthew? As Yeshua said, if you've lusted in your heart, it's like you've already done it, so you might as well. But thankfully, none of you are the ones that post that. So I really enjoy this time of matzah. The meaning of it is always so special, and so just this week is that. I mean, let's face it, guys, we're a bit on the strange side. In fact, we could say that if you get real excited about eating a large cracker for 7 days, yeah, you might be biblical. What do you think? All right, let's go to, two things. First of all, is I pray you had a great Passover. We did. I'm going to have a bit to say about that in just a few moments toward the end, actually. And an announcement, I have been kind of holding off a little bit with this one, but I think I mentioned something maybe a couple of months ago. I will be involved this year with Camp Mashiach up in Whittier, North Carolina, about 30 minutes from our house. And so I'm going to be myself, Steve Mutria, various others are going to be speakers. There's going to be worship there. I've been honored to be part of the Spiritual Advisory Council for Camp Mashiach. And so I'm going to be spending the whole week there. If you have young people, young adults, youth, all the way down to, I think the Benjamites and Wolfpack is like 8 years old or something. I did not go on and check that exactly, but you can go to Camp Mashiach. If you don't know how to spell that, I'm not going to say it right now because I can't remember either. But if you get something close, put Whittier, North Carolina at the end, it'll probably come up. If you can't find it, send me an email. I'll be glad to send you the information. It is, I'm looking forward to it. It's a great honor to be a part of this, to be able to speak into, literally, it's going to be, I guess, probably a couple hundred at least young people that are going to be there. And so looking forward to working with Steve Mutria also. All right, this week's Torah portion, Savah, give an order. And the word here, Savah, is interesting. It really breaks down in English very, very bad. It is a Zadi, a Vav, and a Hey. So this is a picture in this word to start out that it is a Zadi, which is, of course, the letter we would think about a Zadik, or a righteous man. It is literally a man who is, in ancient Paleo-Hebrew, excuse me, in ancient Paleo-Hebrew, this is a man who is laying down on his side. He is at rest. So he has found a place with his Creator that he is at rest. And the rest of the word will actually tell us why. We see a Vav there, which of course is a connector, and then the Hey. The Hey can be reveal, can be a revelation, and it is also the letter for breath, our word going forth, the authority. And so we put all this together, and it is about a man who is considered righteous in the eyes of his Creator because he has found a place of connection with the revelation of his breath, the revelation of his word. Well, that's all in the first word here of this Torah portion, or the title at least. And now the first time, and I just feel this is one of those places that you going back, not all the ways do I really get see something that is remarkable, I guess would be one word, regarding the first place this is used. But with this word, yeah, it is. First of all, is in Genesis chapter 2, verse 16. It says, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, Elohim, gave the person this savah, this order. You may freely eat from every tree in the garden, except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You are not to eat from it, because on that day that you eat from it, it will become certain that you will die. All right, so here's the first time that this word savah is used. Let's just go out on a limb, no pun intended there with the tree, but let's see the second place that the word is used. And it is in Genesis chapter 3, verse 11. And the serpent, he said, who told you that you were, excuse me, that's not the right verse. How did I write that down? The serpent said to the woman, it is not true. Let me start at verse 1, and I'll get the context of it real quick. Somehow I wrote the wrong verse down. Okay, human moment. New year, new revelation, still human. Now the serpent was more crafty than any wild animal that Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh Elohim had made. He said to the woman, did God really say? Did he really savah? Did he order you are not to eat from any tree of the garden? The woman answered the serpent, we may eat from the fruit of the trees of the garden, but about the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden, he said, we are neither to eat from it or touch it, or we will die. Where does Satan, where does he attack? He attacks back to the word savah. He uses the very word and the very picture this word brings forth of a righteous man. Adam and Eve, at this point in time, they are considered righteous in the garden. They are connected to his breath. He, as Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, is the Creator is coming and walking with them, speaking to them in the cool of the evening. They are walking in his authority. Okay, we're to eat of any of these trees, but his breath, his word, his authority has told us that we're not to eat of this tree. So what does Satan do? He attacks the authority of the word of the Creator in our lives to try to disconnect us from being that person who is at rest, resting in him for our righteousness. He has done this through the centuries. I mean, this is age old. This goes back to the first lie that is told in the scripture, and will probably be the last lie that we read about in Revelation, where when he and his little minions are released from the lake of fire, from being chained wherever that may be, however that looks, I don't know, but 1,000-year millennial reign of Messiah from Jerusalem, Satan himself will be bound so that he cannot have effect upon this earth. He will then be released, and what will he do? He will once again lie and cause people to follow him. And we read the rest of the story from there. Now, the word that's the word that we look at. He is attacking the authority of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh in our lives. I mean, what's the last 1,700 plus years been about? Going back to Marcion, going back to Constantine, to the early church fathers, quote-unquote church fathers that said the Torah was done away with. I mean, talk about an attack on his authority. You can't come up with a more significant attack than to say that everything that he said is totally done away with. I mean, this Sunday is interesting. In my way of counting, I look back at Leviticus 23 and interpret that we are to begin the counting of the Omer the day after the Shabbat. Now, Judaism would counts a different way, beginning with the Shabbat, which is the first day of unleavened bread. I can see that, okay? The problem that I have, and I did not count it out this year, that there are some years that counting does not work. You cannot get 7 Shabbats between Passover and Shavuot, Pentecost. And so there's a day there that just doesn't work. Well, if you go to the counting of after the Shabbat, the weekly Shabbat, my understanding is that it works every single time. And so that's why I use that. Now, am I going to start an argument with somebody if they decide to count a different way? Absolutely not. What I do suggest to people is this: know why you're doing what you're doing. Okay, go back, do the research. If you come up with a different opinion, a different observance than I have right now, okay, that's fine. There's no need to argue about those things. We're all in the process of moving forward toward him. More of that in just a moment. So this year, interesting enough, is that Easter Sunday, which I was told by a friend of mine yesterday, he's hearing more people say Resurrection Day. Well, in truth, this coming Sunday, being first fruits, in my counting, is Resurrection Sunday, okay? Because the resurrection, again, in my way of counting, would always be on a Sunday. Go back to the death, burial of Yeshua, it was 3 days and 3 nights. We can go back and look at when the festivals were in that year. So with this, why is it that the resurrection would always be on a Sunday, which is the first day of the week? Yes, but it's also considered the 8th day of the week, which is looking forward to the millennium and beyond. It's actually the Shabbat, the 7th day, would be about the millennium, the 8th day. So the resurrection is about our eternal position with our Creator. Not just this lifetime, but our eternal position. All right, moving on. It goes through these offerings, and the first one that it talks about is the Olah offering, which is the word Olah means a whole or ascending offering. So this is an offering that the complete animal is placed upon the altar and is burned up, everything about it. Now, it is also, so it means whole, it also means ascending. A relative word, so this is, in English would be OLA, but it is also related to the word ALA, Allah, not the false god of Islam, ALA, and that root is what we use for the word aliyah, okay? Aliyah, to ascend. When you go to Israel, wherever you are in the land, you're always going up. It is not possible and somebody's going to say, well, if you took a helicopter, no, you guys wouldn't do that. But if I post that on Facebook, somebody would say, no, you can take a helicopter and come down and descend on, no. Anywhere you go via foot or bus or car or donkey or camel or whatever you want, you're going to ascend, you're going to make aliyah. In Jerusalem, Mount Moriah, the Harabite, the Temple Mount, is the highest of the mountains. And so you're ascending unto the place of his temple. Now, the first time, again, that this is used in Scripture is back in Genesis. Genesis chapter 2, verse 6, rather a mist went up from the earth and watered the entire surface of the ground. So this mist that was upon the earth in that day was actually providing water. It was providing nourishment unto the ground, unto the plants. It was Allah. It was going up. The same word is used here regarding this olah offering, that our life is to be presented unto him. Well, let's just go over to Romans chapter 12. I exhort you, therefore, brothers, in view of Elohim's mercies, to offer yourselves as a sacrifice, living, set apart for Elohim. This will please him. It is your, and David Stern, the connotation of this, his translation, I just don't like. He says it is our logical temple worship, but I think that other translations, at least to me, got the point a little bit better. It is our reasonable service. In other words, don't let yourself be conformed to the standards of this world. Instead, keep letting yourselves be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you will know what God wants, and will agree that what he wants is good, satisfying, and able for you to succeed. This is, I believe, that Shaul was speaking of, the olah offering. It is an ascending offering, and it is I can use the word growing, but I'm going to use a different word, a renewal, a renewing, a moving closer to him, that our very spirit, our very being would always be in this life moving toward him. You know, with Pesach, with Passover, this is a time in which we see what we could call the religious calendar. Again, that's kind of a breakdown of what it really means. I don't even like to use the word religious a lot of times in the context of things with Scripture. I know that the book of James, Yaakov says that pure and undefiled religion, okay, but most of the time we see that the word religion and what we see in our world today, that word doesn't have the best of meanings. It is something that is void. I term religion, back to something I wrote quite a few months ago. Religion is man's attempt to explain God without really knowing God. It is something of our own doing, kind of like a golden calf, I guess we could say. So this is about our growing. And here we are, the first of the year of this calendar, this religious calendar year. I'll go ahead and use that. I guess it begs a question for us all. Looking back, have I grown in this last year? Is my relationship with him, my knowledge of the word, is it greater than what it was a year ago? That's a question each of us has to ask. Is it refreshed? Is my relationship fresh? Or is it kind of becoming a little stale and about as dry as that matzah if we ate it with no butter, no garlic salt, no, nothing on it, just right out of the box? That's a stale cracker, folks. Is our relationship with our Creator more like a stale cracker, or is it being renewed? Now, to understand this a little bit more, we go down to verses 5 and 6, and it says, in that way, the fire on the altar will be kept burning and not allowed to go out. Each morning the Kohen is to kindle wood on it, arrange the burnt offering, and make the fat of the peace offering go up in smoke. Fire is to be kept burning on the altar continually. It is not to go out. When I teach on the tabernacle, the Mishkan, one of what I've found to be, that people have given me feedback, one of the most meaningful points that I bring out is about this verse, that the ashes on the altar had to be cleaned out. The ashes are speaking of what? Yesterday's fire. And if we don't clean out the ashes of yesterday's fire, eventually those ashes will smother out today's fire. So it begs a question that I feel is very important for us. How fresh is my relationship with my Creator? Could I use some ashes being cleaned out? How fresh, and I'll tell you how to how to actually test this out, is by another question. How fresh is your testimony? So if I was to ask you, if we were to have a conversation about, what is God doing in our lives, how far back would you go? Would you go back to, back in, 1980s this happened, and 1990s this happened, or would you say, last week we had, me and him had quite an encounter. This Passover was amazing. This happened, this happened, this happened. How fresh is our testimony? When we're talking about the work of Yah in our lives, is it something that is recent? Or is it kind of ashes that when you start to open your mouth and talk about those things, everybody in the room's like, oh, wow, they're going to tell this story again. I've heard this one a lot of times. And, that story is about as dry as that matzah. Or are we telling about a recent revelation, a recent encounter with him, a time that we could feel his presence close to us? I had this experience when I was heading to Israel. People are, when you tell somebody that you're going to Israel for the 34th time, yeah. I think if I told somebody I was going to Hawaii for the 34th time, they'd go, really? You're going to, yeah, I'm going to the same island. I'm going to the same hotel. I'm going to see the same people. After a while, somebody be like, wow, maybe a little rut in life. And, going to Israel that many times, there's a lot of people that consider that kind of a rut. And I have made a conscious effort through the years I've seen the sights. All right, most of the sights. I went to Mount Gilboa the first time. That was wonderful. But for the most part, I've been to the Western Wall. I can take you to where the most prayer requests are put in the wall. I know where the white dove usually lights up there on the wall. I can, I've seen the Galilee. I've looked at all these things. Why would you go back? And I asked myself that question over and over again, because this time I made a conscious prayer, and I said, Father, I need to not just be saying the same things over and over again about Israel that I have for the last, 20-something years. I need some fresh encounters with you in the land. I did not expect him to answer my prayer at that level. To the point that when people ask me about how was your trip, I'm like, it was good. I'm at a loss to try to figure out how to explain what this trip actually was. So make sure that our testimony is something that is recent and not just stale as the matzah bread that we're eating this week, the matzah cracker. All right, in verse 7, we see about a grain offering. The grain offering speaks to me about it as grain is kind of a basic thing of life. We use in, no matter even if you're doing gluten-free, what are you doing? You're looking for some other kind of flour that to bake with, to use in whatever recipe you've got. So grain is like a basic necessity of life. And this is this grain offering is about us even submitting the basic needs, desires of our life, of our being, of submitting those things to him, asking for his presence, asking for his revelation, asking for his guidance in all that we do, no matter what it is. Verse 17 is a sin offering. So our very nature, we submit our very nature unto him. Understanding, acknowledging, accepting the fact that I am a fallen man, that I identify with the fallen nature of Adam, to the point that I don't blame Adam anymore. There's a lot of people that I've encountered that were like, well, I've got this nature because of Adam. He did this, it's in my DNA, and so that's the way I've got to deal with it. Well, I have a problem with that, in that blaming someone else for your sinful nature is not going to bring freedom from your sinful nature. So, yes, sin came into the world through Adam. But I'm kind of thinking that if, we were to go back and rewrite Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2, and the name in there was not Adam, but was Mike Clayton, I'm kind of thinking the outcome would have been the same. Because I have that same tendency that Adam was brought forth to. And so we need to come to the center of our life is dealing with our nature and not just blaming someone else for, well, have you heard these words? God made me this way. No. Sin made you that way. Your tendencies that sin nature has in your life may take you to different places, but don't blame God for you succumbing to that sinful nature when he has given us the authority, he has given us the way of freedom through Messiah. So these words, well, God made me this way. If you find yourself as an angry person, okay, when I say God made me this way, I know what everybody's thinking right now because, I guess most everybody, I would say, is thinking about those people that have chosen a different lifestyle of in their gender. Okay, I'll say that nice and easily. But let's face it, we can spend all of our time pointing there instead of looking at ourselves. I was at Walmart yesterday. I came home and told Kathy, I said, "Have you seen this person?" She's like, "No, another?" Yeah. We now have two people that I'm like, when you have reddish pink hair that's long, and you have a beard, and the rest of you looks about as confused. I'm like, I don't really know what I was looking at right there. And so I can, look at that person and make myself look pretty righteous in my own eyes. Or walk out and think, what am I covering up? If your tendency, if you're a person that flies off the handle, fights at the drop of the hat, and you'll drop the hat. Just to say, well, God made me this way. No. God made you to be in his image. Yes, Adam had some things to added to the mix a little bit, but now in Messiah, we have become free to say no to those things. The questioning of his authority in our lives. Next, a guilt offering. All right, I look at this as, each one. There's this fallen nature that we have, that we're trying to submit that unto Messiah and his work upon an execution stage, his death, his burial, his resurrection. It's because of his resurrection that we can overcome. I saw a post yesterday on Facebook. Somebody put this up that they had actually put it like, I can't believe this is there, but a church put on their sign, "We serve a risen Savior, not a dead Jew." I just looked at that and stared. I cannot believe that anybody would be so insensitive as to put it that way. I mean, that to me that was over the top. So we have this fallen nature, but then we have what I would call our flaws, maybe our carelessness regarding how we walk these things out, how we walk out his word. It's like, I know what he says, but. Or, well, God will just have to understand. Kind of succumbing to these things of our life. It's like in the first days with us, somebody ordered it was strange. We went to someone's house after Shabbat, and this was many years ago. I won't tell you where. Most of the people that were there probably have passed on. I don't know, but they ordered pizza. Well, they ordered pepperoni. So what did we do? Pick the pepperoni off the pizza. It's like if you pick it off and set it to the side, it's like it has not had any effect on it. That's called carelessness. I saw someone one time that ordered collard greens, and it came and it had pork in it. So what did they do? They took the pieces of pork out of the collard greens. That's kind of a carelessness with his word. Are we serious about his word, or kind of succumb to convenience versus conviction, and then later on hopefully feel guilty about that? The problem is when we are careless with his word, but yet you, put in whatever you want there, there's no conviction later. That's the scary part. When you can do something, let's say that, you go to pay for something and they charge you wrong. Of course, if they charge you less, many people call that, wow, a blessing from God. But if they charge you more, you get mad, right? Well, what if they charge you less and you walk out and go, wow, blessing from God, and you get out the door and he's like, that wasn't a blessing, that was a test. Kathy's mom, of blessed memory, probably one of the most honest people I've ever met in my life. She went to a store. It was during the holidays, I think, and she went to a store and they mischarged her for some clothing that she had purchased. Kathy would fill in the details here, but Almeda got home and figured out that she had not been charged for one article of clothing. This is in Tucson, Arizona. The store is across town, probably 30-minute drive depending on traffic. And we got dinner that night, okay? Almeda is not taking no for an answer. She's like, no, we're getting in the car. We're driving there, and I'm paying for this. And it's like, no, you're fine, we'll do it. No, we're doing it now. Well, they got in the car and drove over there, and the manager, they're like, you're here to do what? Finally, it wasn't just an employee, but the actual manager came and said, yeah, okay, well, ring her out and take the money. They ended up sending her a letter of appreciation. How are we doing? She had what maybe she didn't understand. She was just trying to do the right thing, but it was a conviction of the Ruach, the Spirit in her life, that was saying, no, I have to make this right, and no, we're not going to go back tomorrow or next week. Because see, when he convicts us of something, and we're like, well, okay, yeah, I know I need to do that, but it'll be more convenient to do it next week. Ends up we forget. And then the next time, maybe the voice is not as prevalent. Now, in chapter 8, notice that it goes back to the sin offering. The center. Out of these 5 offerings, the olah, the grain, the sin, the guilt, and the shalom. By the way, I missed that one, the shalom offering. In chapter 7, let's go to verse 11. And it talks about this is the law for sacrificing shalom offerings offered to Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. If a person offers it for giving thanks, the word is todah in Hebrew. The shalom offering, I just want to say thank you. And I struggle with this word. I know a lot of times people put, thanks, and it's here, thanks. I struggle with that word when I send an email. When somebody sends me an email, I send something back, and at the end I say thanks. And most of the time I go back and I delete the S and say thank you. Because this word thanks or thank you is to me, it is one of the most hollow words that there are in language in general. Go to Hebrew, todah. If you want to say thank you very much, todah rabbah. The only word that I know in Korea is kamsahamnida. I don't pronounce it well, but that's the word for thank you. And so in Japan, it's interesting. When I go to different countries, I try to learn the word thank you. In Japan, arigato, thank you. But I find that word, especially when I'm dealing with spiritual things, I'm dealing with my appreciation for what my Creator has done. My appreciation, I try to share this with people that support this ministry, support Kathy and I in this work we're trying to do, support Israel. And I put thank you. And I could literally go to every single language in the world and translate thank you into every language and use every single, and it would come up just, in my estimation, hollow. How do we say thank you to the one who redeemed us? No words here. Now the word is related to the word yada, is actually the word todah and yada, and that word means to throw, to shoot, or to cast. So I'm trying to, the word todah, thank you, arigato, komsidada, whatever language we're using, I'm trying to take a part of myself, what I'm feeling, and throw it toward you. Somehow in the mix, it just kind of drops right in front of me. Because language, the human vocabulary, is not really, in the end, able to communicate, express feelings of gratitude like we're sometimes trying to bring forth. Okay, chapter 8, the sin offering. Dealing with the root problem. Why is it that the sin offering is in the middle of the 5? Because unless we deal with the issue, the original sin, and deal with, if I'd have been there instead of Adam, the book would be written the same way. Our giving of ourselves without dealing with our sin, our giving through our basic needs without dealing with original sin, our flaws, our carelessness without dealing with original sin, and to say thank you. It's like a child coming in and saying thank you after they've just done something that they weren't supposed to do. You're going to be like, wait a minute, before you say thank you, let's deal with what you did, okay? Yeshua's work, this idea of sin being at the center. Yeshua's work is not to make you a better person, like a self-help program. It is not about confessing yourself into a reality that overcomes the root problem. Yeshua did not come, I do not feel, just to make us a better version of our fallen nature. But as we go back to the Passover, in Exodus chapter 6, verse 6, therefore say to the people, I am Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. I will free you from the forced labor of the Egyptians, rescue you from their oppression, and redeem you with an outstretched arm and great judgments. Let's take it another way. I will free you from the forced labor of your sinful nature. Is that what we're looking for? Are we truly desiring to read through these 5 I wills, are we truly desiring to be set free or kind of taken to the outskirts of Egypt and let's set up shop in the suburbs? Or do we want to be totally free? We're in the process. We're in the process. These 5 I wills in Exodus chapter 6, this is a process. It begins with our redemption, and it will culminate in both the kingdom and into eternity. I've got just a couple of minutes, and I'd like to go back to our Passover. We had a very simple Passover from beginning to end of the Seder was about 45 minutes. We ate it in haste, and then we had the dinner, so we ate that in haste. But it was maybe the most meaningful Passover that I've ever had. I took it from some things that from various Passovers that we had done, and then I just kind of simplified it into something. And the first, I asked people to hold up the first cup, which is about, he came to us, this is about this verse, he came to us in exile. He sought the lost coin, the lost sheep. He ran to prodigal sons and daughters. We poured that cup of wine, and I asked people that as they were, just to sip it, as we went through this Passover meal, but at this moment, just to sip this while I put on a song. And maybe, you can take this if you'd like for this Shabbat, and you want to go back to it and do this again. But that wine represents the blood of Messiah. You don't, he says if you drink of my blood, eat of my flesh, that's not talking physical. It's not against the Torah. It's about the essence of who he is. And I went back to an old song by Phillips, Craig and Dean, When God Ran. You can get it on iTunes, on YouTube, free, I think. And I asked people just to sit and sip on that wine as that song played in the background. And we found out very soon, very fast, that there's one thing that we had forgotten on the Passover table, and that was Kleenex. Because when we put this song on, and I saw those that were gathered with us that started to drink of that wine, I saw the tears, and I felt the tears myself. The next thing we did was with the matzah. As we held up that piece of matzah the same way, and I gave out a piece to each person, and I said, just take small bites, break off small parts. And I went to a song by Nicole Sponberg called Knowing You. Graham Kendrick, I think it was, he made that song famous many, many years ago. But the song Knowing You, again, Nicole Sponberg, those songs are available on YouTube. And those two songs with the contemplating over a cup of wine and a piece of matzah made our Passover. Because this verse in Exodus chapter 6, verse 6, is the essence of John chapter 3, verse 3, which says, Yeshua answered, I tell you, unless a person is born again from above, he cannot see the kingdom of God. Why is the sin offering at the center? Because nothing that we give unto him or try to give unto him is accepted by him. It may be a passing glance. It may be, hear me out. But without us being born again, we have to overcome. We have to acknowledge that sin offering. And that is through being born again, in which that then gives us the right to present ourselves, our basic needs, our flaws, and our thanksgiving unto him. Chag Sameach, Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov. Have a blessed, prosperous week. Bezrat Hashem, God willing. See you again next week. Until then, of course, be strong.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.